All right, let's get back to it.
All right, everyone, settle in. We're diving into the deep end today. We're looking at the shadow history of civilization, the idea that the things the history books call superstition or myth are actually the encoded blueprints of how we actually became human.
And it is a heavy, heavy topic. We're talking about the things they tried to burn, bury, and redact. Honestly, after seeing that perfect girl at the shop today, I'm more ready than ever to look at the parts of history that aren't polite.
Please, Emily, if you start analyzing my life like that, I'm out. But seriously, today's text, it's wild. We're starting with Baphomet. Not the cartoon version, but the real heavy occult version.
Let's just get into it. The text starts by throwing everything at the wall. Baphomet linked to Sophia, the Shroud of Turin, even the heads of John the Baptist and Jesus. It even claims the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant were buried in a chapel in Rossland.
It's a lot of high-stakes associations right out of the gate. But look at how the authors pivot to Eliphas Levi in the 19th century. They're saying his famous image of Baphomet isn't just some weird demon, but a pantheistic figure symbolizing the absolute.
Right. And I love how they break down the visual. It's a goat sitting on a cube, an altar of the earth, where matter is sacrificed to become spirit.
Wait, so it's a metaphor for transformation? Like the heavy material stuff dying off so the light can emerge?
Exactly. And look at the detail here. The torch between the horns, it represents enlightenment. And the pentagram on the forehead is called the morning star.
Which, let's be real, is just a more sophisticated way of saying Luciferian without the Sunday school panic.
True, but look at the anatomy. The authors point out it's intentionally androgynous. One hand is feminine and rounded, the other is muscular and masculine. It represents the union of opposites.
I love that. It echoes what we were talking about with my yoga practice, the idea that the divine transcends gender. But the text gets a bit more scandalous here. It says Levi had to hide the solar force, the erect phallus behind the caduceus, because of 19th century hypocrisy.
Yeah, the authors are calling out the censorship of the era. But they also tie it back to the Hermetic principle. As above, so below. The two hands point to the waxing and waning moon Diana and Lilith. The macrocosm reflected in the microcosm.
Okay, but let's talk about the goats in this story, because the text takes a sharp turn into the ambition of the Templars. It says the goat is an outcast, a scapegoat, but also represents Capricorn the climber.
And that's where the shadow part comes in. The authors say the Templars' downfall was the pride of the Templar, their worldly ambition. They were climbing the mountain, but they were doing it for power, instead of the great work.
It's a fascinating distinction. The text says, the goats are the initiates, following the sun-drenched path to the mountain peak, while the sheep are the materialists, remaining in the darkness of the valley below.
Ouch. That is a brutal way to look at religious orthodoxy. It basically calls everyone else sheep stuck in the dark.
It's classic spiritual elitism. And the authors even warn us not to fall into that same trap of spiritual pride, because that's exactly what destroyed the temple.
But then this is my favorite part, they strip away the scandalous layers. They mention the stories of ritual sex in Mendez, which sounds like a cheap tabloid, and say it was actually a distortion of something much older.
Right? They move from the goat to the ram. They trace it back to the Egyptian god Khnum. He's the creator, the potter, using a wheel to shape humanity. He's even described as both male and female by nature.
It's so much more grounded than the demon narrative. It's about biology, fertility, and the Nile, and the connection to Neith, the terrible goddess, the mother of Seth.
It's all interconnected. The text is building this massive web. Tumum, the potter, becomes Ta, the divine architect, the god of the craftsman.
And that leads us straight to Thutmose III. This isn't just a king. The authors are presenting him as a master of mysteries, a warrior, a diplomat, but also a botanist and an occultist.
I love the image of him as a flaming comet in the sky. That's some heavy-duty eulogy right there.
But look at the White Brotherhood claim. They're saying Thutmose III created a secret society, the White Watch, that used this white gold, an alchemical powder, to stimulate the third eye.
It sounds like a massive conspiracy theory, but they're framing it as a historical lineage. They're linking this Egyptian school directly to the Essenes, the Rosicrucians, even the Knights Templar.
It all comes back to that central thesis, that human progress isn't random. It's being steered by these white traditions, these hidden structures of knowledge that move through time, from the Nile to the Crusades, all aimed at that same goal of spiritual evolution.
Even if the white powder part sounds a bit much.
Hey, if it helps the third eye, I'm in.
Okay, we need to slow down for a second. I feel like I'm losing my footing. We went from Thutmose III as a dragon king to Wait, are they actually claiming crocodiles and lizards are the Nephilim?
I mean, if you're looking for a way to make a biology textbook sound like a fever dream, this is it. Reptiles and various amphibians secretly represent the Nephilim.
It's so wild. It takes that idea of shadow history and just pushes it into the deep jungle. But look how they tie it back to the Egyptian pantheon. They aren't just talking about random animals. They're linking the goddess Sekhmet the lioness directly to this lineage.
It's more than a list of gods, Emily. Look at the way they phrase it. They're linking Thutmose III to the dragon king of the Cainite lineage. They are literally saying this pharaoh was a piece of a much older, much darker biological and spiritual puzzle.
And then they drop the Kuthumi bomb. They're claiming Thutmose was an incarnation of a theosophical master.
Man, the more we read this, the more incarnations we find. It's like a cosmic revolving door.
But look at the shift in a text. They move from the pharaohs to Noah and Ham.
And it gets heavy, really heavy. They're bringing in Cassian, this 4th century writer, to claim that the Elohim weren't just angels, but actually the offspring of Adam and Eve's 3rd son, Seth.
Wait, hold on. Let me look at this. They were seduced by the daughters of men, the children of Cain. So the divine ones were actually the result of these forbidden, corrupted unions?
Yeah, and the authors are saying this is why the flood happened. It wasn't just a natural disaster, it was a cosmic reset, but because the lineage had become too much of the mess.
But, and this is the part that ties it to our shadow history theme look at what Ham does. He doesn't just watch the world drown, he's a spy. He's stealing the forbidden knowledge.
This is huge. He says, Ham carved this forbidden knowledge onto metal plates and stone tablets so it wouldn't be lost in the flood.
So the very foundation of Egyptian, Persian, and Babylonian magic? It's all stolen, forbidden data from a pre-flood era?
Exactly. The authors are arguing that the wisdom of the East isn't just ancient, it's surviving contraband.
That is a massive claim. It turns the whole history of civilization into a long-running heist movie.
And it's not stopping at the Bronze Age. Look at how they bridge this to the 18th and 19th centuries. They link the Memphis Mishraim rite back to Cagliostro, an alchemist, an adept, a secret agent of the Illuminati.
At this point, I'm expecting them to claim George Washington was a high-ranking vampire.
Don't give them ideas, Emily. But seriously, look at the connection to the OTO and Aleister Crowley. They're tracing a direct line from these stolen Egyptian mysteries through the Templars, through the Masonic lodges, straight into the sexual magic of the 20th century.
It's like a single thread of forbidden energy running through the entire timeline, from Ham's stone tablets to Crowley's rituals.
But there's a darker side to the Templars here. They mention the scandalous accusations, the osculum infame, the indecent kisses during naked rituals.
Okay, that's a bit much, even for a shadow history.
But look at how they reframe it. They're saying these weren't just vices. They were using Saracen kissing techniques, breathing on specific parts of the body to activate chakras. They're claiming the Templars were practicing an advanced Eastern-style energy work.
So the Crusaders were actually doing a very intense, very naked version of Kundalini yoga?
It's a wild leap, Paco. But then the book does something interesting. It pivots from the grand political conspiracies to a single tarot card, the Hanged Man.
Oh, I love the Hanged Man. It's so much more internal.
But the text is being very specific. It links the card to the traitor Judas, but then pulls it back to the heretic Mani and St. Peter.
It's that theme again, the social outcast. The idea that the seeker, the one who is hanging upside down, is someone who has rejected the normal world to find truth.
Like a spiritual rebel.
The one who rejects the normality of society and stands against the collective views. It's such a shadow position. You have to be an outcast to see the truth.
And then, just to finish the thought, they end on Dionysus, the god who has to die to be reborn, like a seed in the earth.
It brings us right back to the beginning, the death of the old, the emergence of the new, the transmutation we talked about with Baphomet.
Man, I think my brain needs a reset. Anyone want to go play some Munchkin? I promise I won't use any forbidden tactics this time.
We'll see about that. Okay, we need to catch our breath. We just went from the White Brotherhood of Egypt to the White Christ of the North, and I feel like I've been spinning in a centrifuge.
A centrifuge? Seth, you're just describing the Bulb and Dawn rituals. They were literally hanging people from crosses.
I mean, if you look at the text, they were. They're describing a ritual where an Adeptus Minor is, well, bound and suspended on a cross.
Wait, so it wasn't just a metaphor for the Hangman card? They were actually doing the physical movement?
The text says it was a prelude to enlightenment and a way to cleanse the collective karma of the order. They were essentially trying to physically enact the cosmic sacrifice.
Of course, because nothing says spiritual cleansing like being tied up and hung upside down. It's so much more extreme than the polite Victorian era they were living in.
But look at how they link it to something much more. Folk. They mention this English custom Jacqueline. They used to beat an image of him with stones and then burn him in the spring.
Like a scapegoat?
Exactly. The authors say this image represents the spirit of even winter and the lord of disorder. And here's the kicker. It represents the death of the sacrificial god and his descent into the underworld.
So the shadow isn't just a hidden truth, it's a seasonal cycle. You have to destroy the disorder to let the spring arrive. It's the same pattern we saw with Dionysus.
It's everywhere. The text says the Golden Dawn wasn't just a bunch of bored aristocrats, they were pioneers. And they were using this hidden Luciferian imagery that was invisible even to their own members.
That is so spooky. Like, you're part of a club, but you don't even realize you're participating in a ritual to summon the morning star.
And they actually use the phrase in their invocations, "I declare that the morning star has risen and the shadows flee."
Which, again, is just a very elegant way of saying Lucifer is here.
But look at the fall. I love how they use the dragon, the Lucifer figure, not as a villain, but as a symbol of elemental and spiritual fire.
Right. They quote Regardie, saying the fall is only catastrophic if you look at it from one perspective. But if you realize it's the ascent of the dragon, it's actually about consciousness, life, and development.
It's that beautiful, terrifying paradox. The fall isn't a descent into sin, it's the descent of spirit into matter to spark life.
But then they bring in the heavy hitters, the Archangel Lumiel. The description is intense. Eyes like fire, legs like bronze from a furnace, a voice like the roar of many waters.
He sounds like a literal supernova.
And the text ties him back to the 7 stars of the Great Bear. It's all celestial mapping. They are trying to bridge the gap between a person's physical body and the constellations.
Speaking of bridges, they just swung us right back to the Hanged Man. And they're not even letting us off the hook with the unpleasant stuff. They link him to Azazel, the Persian angel Shemyaza.
And the scandal, Shemyaza was seduced by Ishtar. She promised him sexual pleasures in exchange for the secret name of God.
There it is again. The forbidden knowledge fought with forbidden pleasure. It's the same pattern we saw with the Templars and the Osculum in Fame.
But look at the punishment. Shemyaza is sentenced to hang upside down between heaven and earth in the constellation of Orion.
So the Hanged Man isn't just a card. He's a literal, cosmic prisoner. A star entity trapped in a state of eternal, one-eyed suffering.
And they pull in the Norse myths too. Odin hanging on Yggdrasil for 9 days to get the runes.
This is the part where the shadow history gets really cohesive. They argue that the Norse people accepted Christianity so easily because they saw the crucifixion as just another version of Odin on the world tree.
That is such a brilliant way to look at cultural assimilation. It wasn't just conversion. It wasn't rebranding.
But then they throw a wrench in it. They say the equality between Jesus and Odin fails if you look at the motive. Odin sacrificed himself for wisdom. Jesus died as a scapegoat for sin.
One is a seeker, the other is a sacrifice.
But the authors push back. They say in both cases, the death was voluntary. Both figures chose their fate because, paradoxically, they had no choice. The cosmic drama was already written.
That's a heavy thought. The idea that even our greatest acts of free will are just parts of a preordained script.
Well, if that's true, I guess I don't have to worry about my bad magic moves in Munchkin. It was all written in the stars.
Don't be so sure, Paco. The text ends on a new figure, an Orion-like hunter, the son of Arundel, a man who became a star.
We're back to the human becoming divine thing. The cycle repeats.
And the shadows? Well, they're still running.
It's a lot to chew on in one go.
Agreed. Let's take 5 and grab some water,